I should probably go to bed, but I really don't want to. So like when I'm in that creative space, I could probably be up for a full day and go to sleep for a couple hours, and just time is kind of irrelevant. Like if it's a good day, it's insane.
We've been called a lot of things, and we're inspired by everything around us, including each other. The individuals that have inspired me the most create beauty and positive change. To me, that's the highest form of art, and it deserves the loudest praise. This is Shout Out, the art of self-expression. On this episode of Shout Out, the recording artist, producer, and photographer, Tony Snow.
I was going through a lot of problems at home, and then I ended up running away, and then I lived with my buddy. What really was like the transitional moment for me was I just remember listening to Dear Mama from Tupac, and I just started writing lyrics, how I was feeling. Just back when I started doing music, like I was recording on a tape deck. I had two different little stereo things with two different tape decks, and I had two blank tapes. So I put one tape in the other and then recorded a Casio beat and then rewound it, put that tape in another one, the blank tape in there, played the beat, and then recorded a bass line and kept going back and forth. I think anything in life can inspire you. Seeing your kids grow up. My kids have inspired me just to be, a better person, to try to keep my head on straight. Same thing with my wife and my family has been an inspiration to me. It's like with music, same thing with just art, just music and photography. It's kind of all connected. Really, it's just trying to create something that makes you feel something or someone else feels something.
Tony Snow, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. Just living life.
Thanks for coming on, jumping on, and doing this, dude. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
So you're an extremely creative guy, and I've known you for a long time. How many different disciplines do you have?
I think it's just really just trying to commit to what I'm doing, really. A lot of times, like with music, same thing with just art, and I draw cartoons too, and just music and photography. It's kind of all connected. Really, it's just trying to create something that makes you feel something or someone else feels something. But I think a lot of it is just committing to it, even though like a lot of times I'm not really feeling it, or I'm too tired, or I think it's just the discipline of just saying, you know what, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do it, and whatever comes out of this, session musically or whatever I may be doing artistically. There's good days and bad days, and when it's good, it's like you're up here, and when it's a bad day, kind of drop down. But I think that's pretty much the main thing, is just like saying, I'm going to stay committed, I'm going to do it. And, whether it's working with someone else, just, I'm going to show up on time or a little bit early, just showing up and just making the best out of it.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've heard that theme, from multiple artists, that just showing up, doing it every day. How many hours a day would you say that you put in doing something creative?
Not as much as I would like, actually, just because my job, my schedule, especially during the holidays, we're really, really busy. So half the time I get off, and, I work in a warehouse. My work is like extremely physical. I'm lifting cases all day long for, 10 plus hours a day. So by the time I get home, a lot of times I'm completely exhausted, and all I want to do is just literally go to sleep. So, but if I'm working on a project, a lot of times if I'm collaborating with someone musically or whatever, sometimes I just have to say, you know what, you got to get it done, even though you're not feeling it right now. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. I just got to come back maybe the next day. But as far as time, per hours per day, I mean, it's not necessarily every day. I would love to be working on things I love to do every day, but when I am doing it, I can literally, like when I'm making music, sometimes if I have the time, I can probably spend 16 to 20 hours being in the studio, no problem. And still, like, I should probably go to bed, but I really don't want to. So like when I'm in that creative space, I could probably be up for a full day and go to sleep for a couple hours and just continually when I'm in that, like when everything is like all the stars are aligning and everything's working out, it's just like time is kind of irrelevant when it comes to like art. Like if it's a good day, I can, yeah, it's insane. Like
Yeah.
time is not even a thing for me. So, but if I mean, I try to spend, I guess going back to the question, what you're asking, I mean, I try to spend at least maybe, you know, if I have the time, 2 hours, like on a short session per day, let's just say about around there, maybe 1 to 2 hours, depending on my schedule. If I have the next day off, I'll stay up late and get up early the next day and try to squeeze it in, if I can.
Discipline to me is something that goes synonymous with you. And I remember back in the day, like just seeing you skateboard, and I'm like, all right, how many hours is this guy clocking in doing this? Because clearly there were like people that were really good, and then there was Tony Snow. And watching you go was really cool.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. How many hours were you putting in on that back in the day?
Oh man, that's when I actually had time to mess around with what I like doing. Man, we would skate we'd literally skate all day. Like on the weekends, I remember literally waking up in the morning and skating until the night. I mean, that's what we did. Like it was just, and the same thing with music. Like we would, me and Tristan, we would have all nighters literally from like, if I spent the night over there on the weekends, it was like literally from, Friday night, and we'd stay up all the way until Saturday, Sunday the next day, and then just sleep for a couple hours and just continue. And it was the same kind of with skateboarding. And we used to try to do the I don't know if you used to watch the skater videos, like I forgot what, it's so long ago, but we used to watch skater videos like
Daewon Song versus Rodney Mullen,
all that kind of stuff, like
Tony Hawk.
Yeah. And then we'd go out and we'd get the big, VHS tape recorder, and we try to go out and make our own video. So that's kind of what we did.
Okay, getting back to like your creative inspirations and influences, what groups or musicians have inspired you?
Oh geez, there's a lot. Well, honestly, the reason why I started doing like writing music really was Tupac, because I was going through a lot. I ended up a lot of problems at home, and then I ended up running away, and then I lived with my buddy, and we were actually breakdancing. We're trying to do a breakdancing crew. So we're doing that, spending just all day, every day, trying to lock in our, pop and lock routines and flares and all that stuff. But then I remember listening to what really was like the transitional moment for me was, I just remember listening to Dear Mama from Tupac, and I just started writing lyrics, how I was feeling. It was really like the conviction in his voice that made me feel like, man, I really just want to write all my feelings out on paper. So that was kind of like the thing that started it all. And once I started doing that, I didn't even want to break dance anymore. It like pretty much consumed all of me. So that's kind of that was the start of it. And obviously like the soul and R&B stuff that I really grasp onto, that's kind of what really inspired me. I mean, people from like Boyz II Men to Jodeci to, I mean, just even old school cats from back in the day. That's kind of what really inspired me to start music. Yeah, just musically, I mean, there's been so many, but mostly like soul, R&B, and hip hop has been the main like types of music that have inspired me. Now the older that I've gotten, I've expanded, because back in the day it was like, it's only hip hop and R&B and everything else sucks. Now it's like, I've been listening to the Beatles lately, and I just watched that documentary on them, and it was super inspiring and amazing the way their recording process. So that right now has inspired me to, write and work differently with other people. So yeah.
It's funny because I think it's just that time of life where I've experienced that same thing kind of just with my own creation, that everything inspires it. Is there anything like outside of music that makes you want to make music?
Sometimes life experiences, like, I can see something simple, or, two people, or how, like something on the news, or like some conspiracy stuff. That's why I wrote the song called American Nightmare, because, just the everyday life of, you know, going going in debt and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that, just I think anything in life can inspire you just by a simple phrase from somebody else, or seeing, your kids grow up. I mean, there's just so many things that inspire my music, the way that I think of things. And a lot of times it's just like, when you're collaborating with somebody else and they're like, hey, let's, I'm trying to write the song about whatever the subject may be. And then just by them throwing that into the atmosphere of like, oh, okay, it needs to be about this, and I didn't really think about it that way, then, I'll write about that, and it might spark something else.
What kind of challenges do you face just trying to like make music or do what you do?
A lot, actually. I mean, it's really, I think, trying to wear all the different hats, because you know, from unless I'm collaborating with someone else, but like on most of my music, it's from start to finish. So like I'll think of a melody idea, or a few phrases, or I'll just be, trying to make the beat or the music, or trying to come up with the bass line. A lot of times it's like, after so many songs, you start to feel like, man, this is sounding the same than, a couple of songs ago. And it's just really trying to find, like, different ways of continually doing it, but differently, basically, I guess is, and the mixing process can be a challenge too. Like, I'll come up with a cool idea, and then I'll get to the mixing process and it's not sounding how I heard it in my head. So I get, that can piss you off. You're like, dude, it's not sounding right. Or it's sounding cool in the studio, and then you take it in the car and it sounds like absolute trash. And, sometimes in your head, you'll sing a little melody, like I'll record on my voice memo, and I'll come into the studio and it's just not coming out right. So I think the challenge of just really like what you hear in your head, and translating it into the music, the recording process sometimes can be a challenge in making it sound right. I think that's like my biggest challenge now. And also obviously too is like, you know, pushing yourself to do more maybe complicated chords or arrangements. I think that's where I've been struggling a lot. So, but it's always the great thing about it is like you're constantly growing, and it keeps you humble, because like, man, I could be way better. And so it's kind of bittersweet. Like sometimes you can get really down on yourself, but at the same time, like it keeps you humble, and you just like want to continually better yourself.
What does your process look like? Like you had mentioned kind of having an idea, not having it in your head, but like not being somebody who's like musically inclined. I know what my process looks like when creating like art, but
Yeah.
what does that even entail with music?
Well, like sometimes it'll just start with a few lyrics, but mostly the way that I work is I'll literally just have the itch to just make music. So, I have a lot of, things here to spark that. I got a lot of synthesizers and got a couple of drum machines, so lots of toys, what I call them. But really, it's just like, I just feel like making some music right now. And, a lot of times I'll start with the drums, whether it be on, the drum machine or like live drums. Live drums are a little more tricky. So I usually start with the drum machine, and then I'll grab maybe like the bass, and I'll try to come up with a cool little bass line. And then I'll grab the guitar and start building upon, different instruments and different arrangements. And sometimes it just turns out to be a steaming pile of shit. And then at other times it's like, man, this is really cool. And then this makes me feel a certain way. So a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately is I've been trying to go more towards like soul, like the old school, like 70s kind of vibe stuff, which, which has been a little bit of a challenge for me, because, making hip hop stuff is actually fairly easy for me. But when it comes to like when you listen to a lot of the stuff back in the day, their musicianship was like off the hook, like insanely good. And they weren't looping stuff like we do it. Like, I'll go in and I'll do a 4-bar loop of a guitar instead of play it all the way through because, I mean, I could do it, but it's just easier, time consuming if
Right.
You're doing it all the way through instead of just looping a little 4-bar, 8-bar guitar part. Or you can hire, a musician, like a legit, like studio musician to come in and do it. But I don't have that budget right now. But yeah, I think it's just really just trying to get certain sections of a song, even if it's just a simple little 4-bar loop, and really trying to create a vibe. And if you're feeling it and it sparks like a few, usually I'll come in and like I'm working on something right now to where a lot of times I'll make the music for it, and then I'll go on the microphone and I'll just start singing whatever comes to my mind. So and a lot of times I usually like doing that alone because I sound like an idiot, like I'm saying literally words that don't even make sense, but I'm just trying to find that melody that feels right. So I'll record that. And then, depending on my time, if I have to stop for the day, I'll bring it in the car the next morning on the way to work, and I'll try to write some words, or like I'll listen to it on my break. And finally, the words for the chorus will start coming in. And I'll be like, okay, this chorus, I came up with this. So now let's try to write a verse. Or sometimes it's the opposite. I'll write a verse and then I'll have to try to come up with a hook, a catchy hook or chorus or whatever. So that's usually how I work. Sometimes somebody will send me a beat and I'll just be like, oh man, I just came up with this chorus. I'll send it to them and they'll be like, oh man, that's awesome. And then it'll spark them to write a verse and vice versa. So it's a cool thing. It can be frustrating, like I said, because a lot of times I'll come in here and I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna make the dopest beat. And then it just is just trash. So then I get frustrated and then I'll just come back another day and, then I'll write something really cool. So it's just a constant like up and down, but I love it. It's cool to create, something from nothing, basically. It's awesome.
I've been fascinated with that process because like I remember hearing, lead singer Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, and he said a lot of the greatest hits from my career have been misinterpreted lyrics from songs that I've heard from other people. And he's like, oh, I thought these were the lyrics. And he's like, they're not cool. I'll write them down,
Exactly.
and like, growing up listening to like Aerosmith, I would like look at the lyrics. Like, these don't make any kind of sense, but they feel right and they sound right and they sound good.
Yeah.
But if you like read them like a sentence, it doesn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah. So maybe they sung it off the top of their head too. And they're like, it just, the emotion is there. That's really what matters.
Yeah.
Is like, if the emotion's there, sometimes the words
get in the way.
Don't really matter. Yeah.
Yeah. How often does it happen where you're writing and you're like, I'm just going to go with kind of the word that feels emotionally correct versus like really trying to iron it down and make it feel and like line up?
That's actually happened quite a few times to where it was just like the first thing that I sang over the chorus ended up being the final version, or at least a part of it, like the main couple of phrases. I ended up keeping it because the emotion was there and I wrote around what I was saying, and that wasn't the original intention. So yeah, that actually does happen quite a bit. Yeah, I've definitely kept things in there doing that. And what we call them, what do they call them? Happy accidents, which are great. And that does happen quite a bit musically too. Sometimes like I worked on a song a few weeks ago and I was playing on this Sexy Beast right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I meant to go to a different note and I accidentally pushed something else, but it actually worked. And it was something that I would have never done. And I was like, holy crap, that actually, and I ended up ending the song that way. And it's a song called Living Up. And I meant to have the bass line go down, but it went to a different octave up. And I was like, that actually came out pretty sick. So I kept it in there. I was like, okay, so yeah, Happy Accidents, as far as lyrics and musically, sometimes can shape a song completely differently than what you didn't really expect to happen. So yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that. It's so funny. I love the parallels between different types of artistic disciplines because they're 100% there. And it's like, my mind goes to Orson Welles. He's the director of Citizen Kane. And he talked about that specifically and even said, he's like, happy accidents. He's like, you were not intending, but because you're aware and you're just open to it, I think if you get kind of that perfectionist, this is how it has to be, and it can't be anything outside of this, you're really limiting your
Yeah.
creativity. Because
Yeah.
if you are open, like it sounds like you're constantly just aware and open to that,
Yeah.
really cool things happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the awesome thing too is like, which I've been told by quite a few musicians, because I don't, as far as music theory and knowing how to read music, I don't know how to do any of that. It actually makes my brain want to just explode. Cause I remember doing, one, in high school. I don't know if you remember I think it was Miss Mars or Miss Dritz at the time, the choir
Yeah.
teacher, just trying to teach us, like how to read music and like, the basics of, major and minor chords, usually more darker. Major chords are, happy and all that. So I got all that stuff. I understand all that. But as far as like music theory, um, I probably should know more than I do. But for me, it's just like trying to figure out chords that work and feel right. And but what I was saying is a lot of people have told me like, dude, I wish like um, I had that part of me, because a lot of people that read, they're not really playing by ear. They're just only focusing on like I guess the principles of music. So I'll do something weird and they'll be like, dude, I never would have thought of it like that. So it's kind of like a cool thing to just kind of go in there and just be like, I just want to create and like screw the rules. If it sounds good, then it's good for me. So that's another cool thing. Yeah, yeah. So screw the rules, man. If it works and it's not like, well, you shouldn't be going from this key to that, but I don't care if it sounds good, then I'm gonna throw it in there.
Dude, Jimi Hendrix played a guitar upside down. That's how he learned. He didn't
Yeah,
learn rules. He listened to his heart. And
yeah. See, and yeah. I mean, forever will be.
what kind of advice would you give to anybody that is trying to become a musician or thinking about going down that path?
Um, I mean, I say if it's like something that you should be doing and you can feel it like in your soul, just like go for it. And I mean, really like the technology now versus back when I started doing music, like I was recording on a tape deck. Had two different uh, little stereo things with two different tape decks, and I had two blank tapes. So I put one tape in the other, and then recorded a Casio beat, and then rewound it, put that tape in another one, and the blank tape in there, played the beat, and then recorded a bass line and kept going back and forth. So that was kind of like the ghetto way of doing it, but that's how I started. But now it's like you can get you know a, a cheap interface for $200 and maybe a $300 mic, and use Logic Pro, and you're on your way. I think really just go for it, because you're not gonna go from 0 to 100 in a few minutes, but there's definitely work to be done. But a lot of the things now, as far as like collaborating with other musicians, there's a lot of outlets that you can. I mean, even buying instrumentals if you want, if you're not really musically inclined. And there's loops inside all types of Logic or whatever, GarageBand, Pro Tools, all Fruity Loops, all of them. I mean, there's like so many tools now to where it's like if you don't have a musical background, you can get going and throw a simple drum loop and a simple piano loop over there that's already in your music program, and boom, you can write a song. So I say whatever anybody's telling you, if you're too old to even start, nah, don't listen to all that crap, because I think if it's like you feel it in your soul, go for it.
That's awesome, man. Anybody you would like to give a shout out to?
Um, Geez, there's lots of, I mean, so many people, like people that like inspired me, or
Anybody, man.
just
Anybody.
anybody. Well,
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to you. I mean, I appreciate you having me on the show. You've inspired me. I remember back in the day when I don't even remember if maybe it was eighth grade or whatever. I remember going to your house and I saw that Spider-Man mural you painted on your wall, and I saw some of your art, and I was like, man, this like you really blew me away by your artistic. I mean, even your stuff now and your stuffy books, and
Thanks,
I've
man.
been inspired by you. I mean, my kids have inspired me just to be, uh, a better person, to try to keep my head on straight. Um, you know, Same thing with my wife. I mean, my family altogether is just has been an inspiration to me for many things in life. Um, I mean, a few friends. I mean, Tristan. He's been always
100%.
there, and I mean, we had our ups and downs and whatnot, but he's been like a brother. So, and there's lots of people. Just being able to do this, and just being alive and be able to create is just an inspiration. So,
Awesome, dude. Well, thanks so much, man, for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Shoutout is an Ellering Stories production. For more episodes, visit elleringstories.com.